Until now, I followed a very simple approach when it comes to fans that have different variations of max speed. Pretend like the quickest one is the only one that exists and just brush it off as reduce the fan speed yourself. For the Be Quiet Lightwings, I followed exactly that approach. Review the Lightwing 120 high speed spinning at 2500 RPM and ignore the lesser. Wait a minute. Those are completely different fan wing designs. Well, what gives here? Apparently, Be Quiet did something quite unusual with these fans. Instead of creating only one version with different speeds, as they usually do, they created two different ones with the exact same name and just used a modifier like high speed, making the difference barely noticeable. And that little difference is really damn important, cause those are definitely not the same fans. In fact, they are so much definitely not the same fans that a tiny amount of digging reveals that the high speed version is actually tailor-made for high static pressure optimized applications like, for example, radiators, while the regular one comes with 7 airflow optimized fans for things like cases. So no, my usual approach does absolutely not work here. Those are completely different fans and they should definitely be treated as such. Before I dig myself an even deeper hole here, let's repair the initial issue that my blatant ignorance created in the first place by giving the Be Quiet Silent Wing 120 PVM the proper review that they deserve. Although both the non-high speed and high speed version share an extremely similar name, they should absolutely not be considered as the same fan. While the high speed version comes with 9 highly bent and static pressure focused wings, the slower normal light wing comes with 7 very thick and less bent wings, which looks a lot like what Be Quiet used to do on their silent wings. This type of airflow optimized design makes the fan be best used for case fan applications. Basically maximum airflow while not taking very much care of the static pressure part. And this can be seen in the stats. While spinning at a maximum of 1700 RPM, the slower version is only able to reach 1.6 mm of H2O compared to the 2.6 mm that the quick versions were able to pull off. On the airflow side, however, the case fan version is able to keep the amount of air at 41.5 CFM. Although this is still about a fifth behind the high speed version, let's not forget that speed difference between both versions is significantly more than just a fifth. Although it might have sounded differently in the beginning, this is about it when it comes to differences between the two versions. From here, everything will be exactly the same. You can get a Lightwing 120 as a standalone friendless fan or in a triple pack. In that triple pack, you will get an RGB hub. Yes, hub. No controller. This thing spreads a signal across a bunch of fans. There is no creation involved. The fan frame is still built strong enough to kill somebody and there is still rubber around the fan holes. The fan is still powered over a 4-pin PWM signal and the RGB is still pushed over a 3-pin ARGB header. There is still an IRGB splitter next to the actual header, the RGB is still awesome from the front and the little see-through rings in the back are still looking awesome and we still do the same benchmarks. While letting the Be Quiet Lightwing 120 spin at their max 1700 RPM, they managed to keep the CPU at 56 degrees C above ambient, a whole 12 degrees C behind the high-speed version that we've tested before. Before you might conclude that 12 degrees C difference is brutal enough to justify burning those fans into oblivion, let's make the same comparison somewhere else. Comparing the Lightwings regular to the high-speed version, considering their stats, should be somewhat the same as comparing an NF A12X25 to an NF something in between a NF S12A and NF F12. A comparison which should be even more brutal. Or simply an Arctic P12 to an F12. Those are also 12 freaking degrees difference. So as far as comparing airflow with the static pressure focused fans within the same company goes, the Lightwings are delivering pretty much the same difference as any other company. However, if we look closely, they are actually pretty high up there when it comes to airflow focused case fans, with the only ones outperforming them being Arctic's Bionics F120 fans, which are a bit loud. That being said, let's take a look at the noise to performance. To my very surprise, the Lightwings 120 and Lightwings 120 Highspeed are actually a lot closer to each other than I initially expected. While it's definitely true that the Highspeed versions are dominating from start to finish, the regular ones are a tiny bit behind until they just stop because, 1700 RPM versus 2500 RPM. That being said, those fans definitely impressed me in terms of what they can deliver, considering that they are airflow focused. While it's definitely true that the Highspeed versions are better always, I try to look at the bigger picture. When it comes to noise to performance of specifically case fans, neither Nokia nor Arctic can stand a chance. Arctic's F12s are louder or not so cool, and Nokia's S12As are not so cool. And do remember that Bionic's F120s, whose max performance was a tiny bit higher, well, that comes at a cost of a whole lot of noise. So although the regular Lightwings are unable to outperform their high-speed counterparts in neither noise nor performance, though let's be honest, the numbers actually already said it, their changed up design did prove that there was a lot to squeeze out of it to keep them competitive as on the case fan market. However, even if Be Quiet proved that they can make pretty freaking good case fans, they are obsolete at the moment that you realize that high-speed versions exist. Sure, the Lightwings regular can whistle at very silent 20.6 dB, but what benefit does that give you if you can fit a pair of high-speed Lightwings and then just turn down the fan speed, and at that point the whistle is identical, but it is pushing more air, so. And the benchmarks pretty much prove that. Whilst looking at every performance measuring point, the high-speed versions were always either a tick ahead in noise or in performance. Plus you will get more headroom, which is just generally a good thing. Now this type of noise to performance difference is a very common thing. Look at Nokia's NF S12A versus NF A12X25. Sure, the S12A is built specifically for case cooling, but that doesn't stop an A12 to kick his ass. However, in most cases, the whole thing is legitimized by the fact that the case fan version is significantly more affordable. For Lightwings, however, this is not the case. As shocking as it seems, both the regular and high-speed versions are going for the exact same amount of money. Congratulations, Be Quiet, you just played yourself. So to conclude this review in some shape or form, although the Lightwings 120 proved to me that Be Quiet's old but gold airflow design is pretty damn good for its age, they are just not as good as the high-speed version. So yes, and kinda no, if you already got a bunch of Lightwings, great, good case fans and that kind of thing, but the high speeds are just better. That being said, I believe that the naming scheme that Be Quiet did here was a horrible idea. I get that they didn't want to have different Lightwing versions in like name, but those two sets are definitely not the same fan. And in my opinion, this just creates more confusion, resulting in people thinking that those are the exact same fans and the quicker one are just quicker, while in fact that's not the case. Just like Nokia, Arctic, Fantex, Boeing, whoever, they have separate names for static pressure and airflow focused versions, and I think that will also be the best way to go for Be Quiet. An Lightwing P and a Lightwing F, or whatever you want to do. So from my side, if there will ever be a new iteration, maybe separate them by name or add like a little P or F to it or whatever, that should make it. Whew, complicated. But this should be it for the Be Quiet Lightwing 120 Case Fan Edition. At this point, a huge thank you to Be Quiet for providing them to us, and also that 140mm lineup, which will be releasing very soon, so make sure to be subscribed for that one. But if those videos are not out yet, have a look at our extensive coverage on the 120mm high speed version. That one is the one to go. On a side note, we now also have channel memberships, so if you want to help us keep the boat afloat, that's the best way to support us, and in exchange for your soul that you are basically selling us, we will grant you an RG poop emoji, because nothing expresses your feelings towards RGB better than a cute little RG poop. Anyway, thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.